Hey everybody, what's up? Today I'm going to show you how to solder copper pipe. This is something you can do as a DIYer. I know you have it in you. You just need some extra quick tips to solder copper pipe and be well on your way. All right, let's get to it. Before we begin, I wanted to tell you there are 4 reasons solder jobs fail. Number 1, there's dirt on the pipes or in the flux. Number 2, there's lack of heat. Number 3, there's too much heat that burns off the flux. And finally, number 4, there's water in the pipes that absorbs the heat. So you want to make sure all the pipes are drained of water. So here are all the different tools you have for cutting. You've got standard rigid number 15 tool, you've got your AutoCut tool, and I like the AutoCut tools. So here you have it, there is an arrow on this, and I wanted to show you real quick how easy it is to cut copper pipe with the AutoCut tool. You just turn it in the direction of the arrow, and in a few seconds, you're going to have a cut copper pipe, which is pretty sweet, but you'll have to deburr it. There's no deburring tool on the AutoCutter, and the little lip that's created by the cut can cause your pipe to be a little bit noisy, and it can cause pitting inside the copper pipe. So you have to ream it out using a reaming tool like this one on the rigid number 15 tube cutter. You also want to clean out the inside of the pipe. I know this isn't absolutely necessary for the inside of the actual pipe, but I like doing it while I'm cleaning the outside portion of the pipe too. That way I know that any copper particles aren't going to be stuck inside of it. And you want the copper pipe to be as clean as possible. Even blow it out to remove any kind of little tiny burrs. So there you go. There it is. It's super clean. I like using Laco flux because it's non-acidic and it won't hurt delicate copper pipe that you already have inside your house. So I'm applying a minimal amount of flux to the outside of the pipe. You don't need a ton, and if you have any gobs on it, make sure you remove those gobs, because if it gets inside the pipe, the flux can actually cause pitting, and that's what you don't want, because it'll lead to pinhole leaks. So make sure that you clean the inside of any fitting. Here's a 90-degree elbow. I'm cleaning out the cups of the elbow, and that way it'll be super clean. And blow it out too. Make sure you blow out the inside of any fitting, and you'll want to flux it really, really good, but not a ton again. If you have any gobs inside the fitting, make sure you remove those flux gobs, because like I said, you don't want there to be any kind of pinhole leaks inside your copper pipes because you fluxed the pipe too much. Don't lay down the flux pipes on a surface. Immediately attach them together. And if you've got separate pieces, in this case you've got 3 separate pieces, you want to attach all the pieces together before you solder. So here's a protective pad that you can put down on wood, or you can put it in your stud bay to protect the wall. It won't prevent the wood or the drywall from smoldering, so you just have to make sure that it's not smoldering after you use that. We're just going to use regular propane. We're not going to be using MAP gas, which burns a little bit hotter. Make sure you wear safety glasses and gloves. Really important, especially if this is the first time you'll be soldering. Oh, and always make sure that you have a fire extinguisher nearby. That way, if something is smoldering or on fire, you can put it out. And that's really important, right? So you're going to put a little crook or hook in your solder. And in this case, I'm actually marking off 1/2 inch and 1 inch from the tip, because if you're using 1/2 inch fittings, you're only going to be using about 1/2 inch of solder per fitting. So I'm going to be doing 2 solder joints, and I need about 1 inch of solder. Now I'm using Silver Bright 100. This is good for potable water and is lead free. So that's what you want, lead-free solder. Turn on your torch. In this case, I'm having a little bit of trouble lighting it with a lighter. I know some people say not to use a lighter. I'm okay with that. You can also use a striker or a match, whatever you want to start it. I want to show you something. This blue cone here, that is the hottest part of the flame, and that's what you're going to concentrate on your copper pipe. So preheating the copper pipe about 1 inch or 2 below the joint, preheating for about 10 seconds or so, so 5 to 10 seconds, it's really going to help out your soldering job. Then you want to focus that blue part of the flame on just behind the little cup on this 90-degree elbow. If you're soldering in a 90-degree degree elbow, and constantly touch the solder to the fitting, because once it starts to melt, you're good to go. You don't want to burn off the flux. So as you can see here, the solder's going into the joint. We're using the little hook in it to reach around the backside. And once you see that solder melting, you're good to go. And you probably don't even really need to apply too much heat to the top part of this particular 90 degree. And just make sure that if there are any drips, you remove those drips of solder. Then you can use a damp towel to wipe off the pipes and remove any excess flux from the pipe, because you don't want excess flux on the pipe. It'll possibly corrode it over time. So this is a pretty clean solder job. It's a little bit messy in certain parts, but that's okay. I know that there's plenty of solder, and you want to check to make sure that the solder is completely filled in the joint, that there aren't any gaps. And you want to do this while you're soldering. If you see any gaps, fill it in with the solder, right? So now I'm going to show you how to do a straight coupling. So this is something that you would use if you've got to replace a section of copper pipe, if you do in fact have a pinhole leak. So again, you want to clean out the inside of the fitting using a wire brush like this one here. Blow it out, so blow out any kind of burrs, and then apply a thin layer of flux to the inside. You don't need very much, right? Remember, you just need a minimal amount of flux. Again, remove any gobs of flux off the pipe. Attach your fitting, flux the opposite pipe like I'm doing here. Attach them all together. So again, a general principle is attach all the pipes together, and then you'll want to solder them. And if you make sure that any of the bristles from the brush are not stuck on the copper pipe, that's another hot tip, because if they are, that's going to ruin your soldering job. So again, you put that little hook in the solder so you can reach around the back, because if you're in a stud bay, guess what? You're not going to be able to see the back of the pipe. So that's why you put the little hook in the solder, so that you can reach around and be sure that you're getting all the solder inside the joint. Preheat for about 5 to 10 seconds, an inch or two below the joint. We're going to start on the bottom here if this is a vertical pipe. So you start on the bottom, you preheat, then you heat in the center of the fitting, and again, you constantly dab that solder between the pipe and the fitting. And once you see the solder start to melt, you should be good to go. The solder will follow the heat. So wherever the heat is, the solder will follow. So I'm trying to heat the opposite end of the pipe. The solder will follow into the joint. In this case, it's a little bit messy, so you probably applied too much heat, right? But once you see the solder melt, you should be in good shape. And you'll be heating. The other thing I wanted to show you is when you heat it, you don't have to heat it up too much. Once you see the solder melt, you don't have to heat up the joint too much more to fill in the top portion, right? So then you can take your damp rag and you can wipe off the excess flux, and if the solder's still kind of liquid, then you can kind of smooth that out too. So as you can see here, we've got a pretty decent job. I probably put too much solder on the top as I was probably concentrating on not having my hands in front of the camera, so I apologize for that. But again, you want to make sure that the solder fills in all the gaps in the pipe, that you don't have any gaps, that is. You've got a really nice sealed joint. Now the other thing I wanted to show you is the inside of the pipe. As you can see here, there's no flux in there, and that's exactly why you don't want an excessive amount of flux on your pipe or fitting, because you don't want the flux to get inside the copper pipe. Again, it can lead to pitting and all sorts of pinhole leaks. Now my biggest suggestion is go ahead and buy a bag of fittings. Here you go, 90s, and just practice. Practice maybe 5-10 times before you actually have to do this inside a stud bay or between joists, and you'll be good to go, right? So practice. All right, well there you go. That's how you solder copper pipe. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and click on the subscribe button over here on YouTube. That way you won't miss any of my videos moving forward. And you can visit homerepairtutor.com and sign up for the email newsletter, because we do tool giveaways, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. All right, take care. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.